You probably don't struggle when it comes to playing video games or scrolling through social media on your phone. In fact, I'm sure you could easily sit in front of a screen and do those activities for 2 hours, maybe even longer, without losing focus. But what about studying for just half an hour? Oof. Suddenly that feels too difficult. And working on your side project for another hour? Not nearly as tempting. Even though you logically understand that studying, exercising, building a business, or doing something equally productive will benefit you more in the long term, you still lean toward watching TV, playing games, or endlessly scrolling online. One might say the reason is obvious. One activity is easy and requires little effort, while the other demands discipline and energy. Yet some people seem to manage studying, exercising, or pursuing their side goals regularly without much issue. Which raises the question, why are certain people more motivated to take on hard tasks? And is there a way to make difficult things feel easy? To answer that, we need to look at one particular neurotransmitter, dopamine. People often call dopamine the pleasure molecule, but that's not exactly accurate. What dopamine really does is drive desire. And that desire is what fuels our motivation to get up and take action. If you're not sure how powerful dopamine can be, let me share a few classic experiments scientists carried out on rats. Electrodes were implanted into their brains, and every time a rat pressed a lever, its reward center was stimulated. The result? The rats developed such an intense craving that they kept pressing the lever repeatedly for hours on end. They stopped eating, they stopped sleeping. They pressed until they collapsed from exhaustion. Then the researchers flipped the process. They blocked dopamine release in the rats' reward centers. The outcome was the exact opposite. The rats became so lethargic that getting up for a sip of water wasn't worth the effort. They didn't eat, they didn't mate, they didn't crave anything at all. You could say they lost the will to live. But interestingly, if food was placed directly in their mouths, they would still eat and enjoy it. They just lacked the motivation to get it themselves. You might assume hunger or thirst is what makes us seek out food and water. But dopamine plays a crucial role here as well. And while those rat studies are extreme, we see the same principles in humans, in our everyday lives. Your brain actually sets its priorities largely based on how much dopamine it expects. If an activity doesn't promise much dopamine, you won't feel motivated to do it. If it promises a lot, you'll find yourself coming back again and again. Take comfort food, for instance. Even before you eat it, dopamine is released, because your brain expects it will make you feel good, even if afterwards you actually feel worse. The brain doesn't care that it might harm you. It just craves more of that hit. A classic case would be a drug addict. Even knowing it's harmful, he still wants more. Drugs like cocaine or heroin trigger unnatural surges of dopamine, making the craving even stronger. Of course, nearly everything releases some dopamine. Even drinking water when you're thirsty does. But the biggest spikes happen when rewards are unpredictable, like when playing slot machines in a casino. And in today's digital age, we are unknowingly flooding our brains with abnormally high levels of dopamine daily. Think of constant scrolling on social media, endless gaming, or internet pornography. Each one comes with the anticipation of some reward. That's why we're glued to our phones, always expecting a new notification, a new message, a new hit. Just like those rats pulling the lever, we're chasing dopamine over and over. You might think, so what? It's not harming me, but that would be a mistake. Our bodies operate under a principle called homeostasis. the tendency to keep internal conditions balanced. When an imbalance occurs, the body adapts. Tolerance is another form of homeostasis. Someone who rarely drinks alcohol gets drunk quickly. But a regular drinker needs more to feel the same effect, because their body adapts. Dopamine works the same way. When your brain is constantly flooded with dopamine, it downregulates your receptors. High levels become the new normal. This is what we call dopamine tolerance. And here lies the problem. Things that release only small amounts of dopamine no longer feel interesting. Motivation to do them fades. They feel boring compared to the high dopamine activities you've grown used to. That's why many of us would rather play games or browse online than study or work on a business. So is there a solution? Yes, the dopamine detox. You set aside a day where you avoid highly stimulating activities. You stop overwhelming your brain with constant dopamine and allow your receptors to recover. For one whole day, you cut out as much external pleasure as possible. No internet, no phone, no computer, no music, no junk food, no constant stimulation. You embrace boredom. And yes, there will be plenty of it. What can you do instead? Simple things. Take a walk, meditate and reflect. Write down your thoughts and ideas on paper, not your phone. It might sound intense, but radical results require radical action. Why does it work? Imagine eating every meal at the best restaurant in town. Eventually, that becomes your baseline. If someone offered you plain rice, you'd refuse. But if you were starving on a deserted island, that same rice would suddenly feel like a feast. That's what dopamine detox does. It resets your baseline so that simple activities become rewarding again. In the long run, the key isn't just occasional detox. It's also about attaching dopamine to things that actually benefit you. Use high dopamine activities as a reward after you've done the hard work, not before. To wrap this up, it is possible to make hard things feel easier. But if your brain is constantly overstimulated by dopamine, ordinary tasks won't excite you. That's why reducing high dopamine habits is essential. And trust me, it's worth it. We're all dopamine addicts to some degree, and that's okay, because dopamine drives us forward. But in the end, you have to choose. Will you get your dopamine from empty distractions or from building a life that truly matters? The decision is yours. Remember this: true freedom is not found in chasing easy pleasures, but in mastering yourself to create the life you deserve. Thank you for watching. If you found value in this video, please like, share, and subscribe. It really helps us grow and bring more life-changing ideas to you.